Hi, I'm Tom from West London. I've been a part of the Nutrabait teams for a few years now. Can you join me on today a new campaign which I've just started? This campaign is going to be on a mature gravel pit of around 100 acres in the southeast of the UK. The air is noticeably cooler already. The conditions are starting to change, the leaves are starting to turn, and this is where the big carp buzz will really start for me. Approaching these lakes over the next few months, it's going to be challenging. We all know that water temperature takes a massive part into carp fishing. Between 15 and 20 degrees is when you'll find the carp at most active. Once it drops below that 15 degrees, the metabolism of these carps will start to slow down and the bites will become harder to get. It's not a big window to work with, but I'm sure going to make the most of it as I can. With limited time, I'm going to approach this with every effort I've got over the next coming months. The conditions are spot on today. We've got cloud cover with the odd shower coming through, a little bit of sun trickling through, but I feel the carp are going to be on this wind in the deeper water. We're going to have a lead around, see what we can find, and if we can get a spot going, we're going to fish it. If we see something we've got to move on to, then it's no brainer, we're going to get round there. So with this being a new campaign, I do have a good understanding of the water, but you'd be silly not to use the technology we've got this day. This app, £25 a year, and you can see that it's given a 3D map of the whole lake that we've got to work with. In front of us, we've got shallows with a large drop-off to the left. I feel that that drop-off is going to be a key area for today's fishing. Gravel spot I've just found, so I'm going to keep aiming for that buoy on the far left and see how big this spot actually is, and if we can get a couple of rods on it. Another lovely drop. Perfect. The only trouble we've got now is getting the bait out in this wind. But if there's a will, there's a way. So now we've identified a spot that we can get a couple of rods on, I think there's time to have a look at the bait. So when it comes to my bait selection, much won't change throughout the year. I'm always going for the trigger, pineapple and butric, but Nutrabaits has got everything for everyone's needs, I feel. The trigger range itself, you've got 3 different types of bait in that. You've got the big fish mix and also the cream kajausa. For me, with the trigger, pineapple and butric, you've got that sweet overtaste from the trigger base mix, which can't be beaten. When it comes to hook baits, I will always be chucking out a pink pepper. This has done some unbelievable fish for me over the years. And the great thing about it is these pits, you may be waiting 24, 48 hours for the carp to actually turn up to you. These will still be kicking out attraction throughout that whole period of time. The guys at the factory have done a great job making these extra buoyant, so you can absolutely cover them in additional liquids. With them being extra buoyant, if it's 24, 48, 72 hours, you can guarantee that these will be standing proud out on the lake bed, waiting for the carp to turn up. Now sometimes that bright, high attract bait may not be the one. It might actually do the opposite of what you want it to do and scare the carp off. So as all the ranges in Nutrabaits, you've got the matching hook baits. We've got the pop-ups here in 15mm. As you can see, what I've done is I've put a slight scattering of the bait hook baits complex on this, which just really gives it that extra attraction and keeps seeping over that time once the bait's out in the water. Now, it's not always imperative that you want to be fishing on the bottom, so we have got the boosted, and you can see I've boosted these to the absolute max. Absolutely oozing attraction out of there. These are the hard hookers in an 18mm, especially with lakes with nuisance species in there. We're not too bad with crayfish on here, but the mitten crabs can be an absolute pest. So at least you know when the rod's out there, these are going to keep fishing. Another key part of Nutrabaits is the additive range. A massive favourite and massive across the fishing industry is the butyric acid. Now this is often sort of related to really stinky, horrible baits, but You can use these with certain flavours and they just really propel that flavour and don't overtake it. So I will always, every time I'm topping up my pink pepper, just add a few drops of this to the pink pepper to ensure that continuous flow of flavour going through the water columns. The attraction these two baits together is just unbelievable. The fish that it's done for me over the years is remarkable. Only recently, after a 7-year campaign, it was this chucked as a single to a show which produced me one of the lake gems known as blind eye. Now we've had a look at the bait, let's have a look at the rigs we'll be using today. And realistically, nothing much changes again throughout the year. I've got 2 rigs that I predominantly use. This one being the bottom rate rig, simple slip D. You'll notice a hell of a lot of putty on here, and that's the reason being is because these big pits have massive undertows, and I want to ensure that these rigs are staying sturdy. We then go on to the other rig. This predominantly is used for pop-ups. As you can see, we've got a long boom stiff section here that's done to a large kicker with, again, a great big bit of putty and a size 4 hook. All about strength on these pits, but utilising this big boom section, you can guarantee that rig's going to be kicking out, and then we've got that subtle braid at the end, just allowing it to sit over any debris on the bottom. Majority of the time, again, these rigs are the only ones I will be using, unless circumstances make me change the way I am going to approach it. So that's rigs ready. Let's get the rods on the dance floor. Okay, so we've got 20 wraps on that rod that we clipped up on the gravel bar. We're going to match this rod exactly the same to it. It's imperative that when we're fishing these areas, like I say, I've identified that the weed bed's probably 4 or 5 foot to the right, and we've probably got around 10 foot out in the lake before the next weed bed set, so we can get 2 rods comfortably on that, but we want to be fishing the same distance. Once these are out, we're going to get a scatter of bait round, because we've only got and at work overnight, so hopefully we can make something happen. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Right, so that's both rods wrapped up. We'll give the line a good soak in before we chuck out, because I am fishing braid. Get the rods on the dance floor, get the bait out, and then I think it's time for a bit of spotter lunch. I'm going to be trying to hit that clip just before it hits the water. There we go. Bonk. Get that line sunk nice and quickly before the undertow takes it. So that's going to be our right hand rod. Everything's good. Fire in the hole. There we go. Again, getting that line sunk. Now from looking at these drops, I reckon the rod's half a rod length apart, and that'll do for me. That'll do just lovely. Right, before we get the alarms on, we're going to let the braid do its thing. We're going to let it soak up that water, and then once he's settled properly, we can look at getting them signs let on. But already you can tell they're bang on, just following them lines out. Happy days. I've just finished up on a very long campaign, long enough as in 7 years, on and off, targeting this water for spring, the autumn, definitely the moon phases, all for one fish. I had this fish in mind when it hit 30 pound all them years ago, and it's avoided me like the plague. Finally, all it took was a day session with the boys. Saw a show, chucked a single pink pepper on it. Within 2 minutes of the phone popping up, game over. It was in the net. Blind eye, just under 40 pound, but didn't matter that it hit the 40 pound mark. It was the fish that I was after, and it was the closure that I could finally accept on that lake. I kept finding myself going back there. The buzz on that day, like I say, sharing the moment with the kids was magical. The hundreds of hours that I put into it, the countless blanks, long cold nights through the winter, was all worth it in the end. Very cool fish, very cool fish. And with that closing, that sort of opened up to moving on to this pit. Like I say, I've had access to this pit for many years. And so I know the water well, I know the stock well, I know how they work, but I feel now's the right time to give it a good go. There's still a lot of the old fish knocking around in this pit, but it's not all about the old ones all the time. The guard has to change sometimes, and the guys over these pits have done an incredible job with the stocking over the years. And there was a stocking going back to what, 2013 now. Some of them fish have gone over 25 pound in weight, as in they've gone in at 9 to 10 pound. They're well over the 30 mark. Some of them have gone beyond. So it's that challenge of catching the unknown still. I know a lot of the boys on here have done really well, and there's a lot of capable anglers that fish these pits, but there's still a few that are on the missing list. I won't go into too much detail on what, because hopefully at a later date I can share the captures of crack, especially for this autumn. So how am I going to approach this campaign? Well, as I've mentioned already, time is a massive factor. I'm going to try and spend as much time as I possibly can, eyes on the water. This lake, we've got 100 acres to deal with. We've got a large, probably 30 acres of it are shallows, with a large drop off which will continue through to the lake. Now, that's always a feature upon itself. Depending on the weather, are they going to be sitting on these shallows? Are they going to be in the depths? Well, they're going to go between the two, especially as the time goes on into autumn. We're going to lose them daytime hours. The nights are going to become longer, the days become shorter. So they may be basking in these shallows in the days and then working their way down to the deeper waters at night. So staying active and staying mobile is going to be key to this campaign. For the last month, month or so. I'm probably around 10, 15 nights in. I've had a few carp, a few of the newer stock. I've had 4. One I unhooked with the net, proper noddy move, but we won't talk about that one. The other jumped out the net, but 2 of them have safely made it on the bank for captures. And like I say, it's great to see these go in. One of these fish only just above the 20-pound mark, but it only went in 3-4 years ago at 9 pounds. So to put on that weight is unbelievable, and it just sort of shows the power of these lakes and what they can produce. So yeah, it's going to be a challenge, and it's going to be a great challenge. I think the fish in here, the stamper fish, are unbelievable. You've got the old guard, the new guard, and I think every capture is going to be special throughout the journey. Bait wise, I'm going to stick to what we've gone through either way. I'm going to keep probably 3 or 4 spots going around the lake, but I won't necessarily stick to them. Now, like I say, with the limited time, it's going to be hard to monitor if the bait's been going. Now, a few of these spots are open water, so we can naturally use the wildlife to see if this bait's going. I will do the odd big drop just to keep them carp visiting for times that I can't make it to the lake. When I am down here for the hour or so, you will notice the black chickens, they will be trying to dive on your bait, and it's a good indication to see if that bait's gone or not. So you can utilise the wildlife while we're doing it, while we are here. The big autumn feed, is it a thing anymore? Personally, I think no. The quality of bait that's being produced these days, I feel that the carp don't have to pile it in like they used to, you know. So I'm going to be going on my instincts with that. I'll be keeping consistent bait going in, but not necessarily lots of it. The boilie, the pellet, the particle will be put in, but as the autumn sort of kicks in and goes deeper into that season, I'll pull away from the particle, I'll pull away from the pellet, and it'll just be pure boilie. You'd be surprised how far a kilo of boilie can go over a nice spot. And with a nice spot, I mean the size of a bivvy. You know, we don't want to blow that spot up too quick. The last thing we want to do is, we're here for the long run, not the short run. You know, the last thing we want to be doing is absolutely filling it in, blowing the spot up, because it's not just going to be the carp eating it. There is abundance of tench and other small roach, etc. in here, and they will gradually grow that spot. So we don't want to blow it too quick. That's something for sure. So I'm going to go on what I feel's right, and we'll see how we go, I suppose. Time will tell. So unfortunately, ideally I'd like to have get a nice spread with the baiting stick, but the seagulls have turned up. So next option, let's go spom a bit of bait out. Gone back onto the spom, positive of that, as we also get a bit of pellet out. Just going to put some of that activator onto that pellet and fire it out there for that little bit of extra attraction in the swim. Got the 2 rods open water now. I've identified a nice little spot just down the far margin there. Underarm cast really, but it drops off lovely. So I've scattered some bait along the tree line, and I think it'd be silly not to get that 3rd rod up there, especially with the wind flying in. It's them little edge spots that can sometimes make the whole difference to a session, and certainly have in my fishing over the years. So what was I doing between the campaign on This is the other pit. I had another local pit to me, around 30 acres, between 60 to 80 carp in it. Real special ones in there, a lot of history. I've still got unfinished business on there, but it was getting to the point where I had a few recaptures pop in and I felt it was time to put that one to rest. But some of the special captures, looking back on that, again, pink pepper, caught the majority of them. The black mirror in there was a really special carp, and it's good to know that it's now hit the 40-pound mark. Maybe one day it'll grace my net again, but ideally there's other fish on there that I will want to target. One of them's not come out in 7 years now, and it looks massive. Plenty of the boys have seen it. A real special fish. It could have been lost, but until it hits the bank, we won't know how big it truly is, but it's piling on the pounds, and it has done over the years. So that'd be maybe one for the future, but definitely going to be concentrating on this lake now. But I suppose that brings me on to why Nutrabaits. Let's talk facts. Nutrabaits has been around longer than I've been around. So 86 it was started, 89 I started. So 4 or 5 years difference there, and it's done the test of time. It's gone through the good and the bad times, I would imagine, and in recent years it's definitely going back to its former glory that it had back in them days. Rich and the guys at the factory, they put everything into it. The quality of the bait, you can't deny. I know Rich has fished with the bait for many years now, and it's not just a business for him, it's a passion. And to have that trust behind a bait, for someone to put so much into it, why would you not want to do it? And I can only go by my results to say that I'm going to be sticking with it for a very long time. And long live Nutrabaits, because they're doing a great job there. New ranges have come out, and there's potentially stuff in the works as well. Even the new hook bait range they've brought out recently, the blank savers, it's doing bites everywhere, around Europe, around the world. So to be a part of the team and fish for such a historic brand is a buzz upon itself, and long live it.